Okay, I guess we can get started. Welcome, everybody. And it's Tuesday, September the 19th, 2017 at 5:30 p.m. Notice is hereby given. The City Council of the City of Alpine, Texas will hold a regular monthly meeting at 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, September the 19th, 2017 in the City Council chambers at 803 West Howard in the City of Alpine, Texas for the purpose of considering the text agenda. The notice is posted pursuant to the Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.043, Texas Government Code. Public notice: the use of cellular phones and sound-activated pages are prohibited in the City Council chamber meetings. So please use your phones, and members of the audience will be provided an opportunity to address the council during public hearings and during action items. Please speak into the microphone located at the podium and state your name and address. If you have a petition or other information pertaining to your subject, please present it to the city secretary. State law attorney prohibits the council from discussing or taking any action on any issue not included in the agenda, But if appropriate, the council may schedule the topic for future discussion or refer the matter to staff. No personal attacks on council members or city staff will be allowed. The mayor may call a point to order to stop the personal attack if an individual continues to personally attack an elected official or staff member in the meeting. They may be barred from speaking at future meetings. Now, call this meeting to order. We'll start with invocation, and the Reverend Joe Beth McLeod will lead us in.
Good evening. My name is Jo Beth McLeod. I'm the pastor of the First Presbyterian Church in Alpine and president of Alpine Ministerial Alliance. Let us pray together. Oh God, we come before you again this day, grateful for your loving care and your sustaining providence. We are keenly aware in this new fall season of the beautiful world you have created for us to enjoy and to care for. In particular, we thank you for the beautiful mountains which surround our city, for rain that has nourished our land, for clean air to breathe and safe water to drink. Help us work together to become even better stewards of the many resources you have placed under our watch care. This evening, we ask your blessing upon our mayor and city council members, our city manager who has served us so well these past years, financial officer, city secretary, our legal consultants, municipal judge, our police departments, public works officials, gas, water, and sanitation departments, and all our other city employees. Help them work as a unified team for the benefit of our city and all our citizens. Please forgive our shortcomings and sins and lead us in paths of truthfulness, honesty, and integrity as we face the challenges and the choices that come before us. Keep our minds and hearts open to the direction of the Holy Spirit as well as the ideas of other people. Inspire us with hope for the future and grant us the willingness and the energy to follow through on our promises and on our plans. We pray all these things in the name each of us holds most dear, which for me is Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On honor of the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, Reverend. Do we have a quorum, City Secretary?
Mayor, we do have a quorum, and Councilor Fitzgerald is excused from the absence. The notice was posted at 11:30 a.m. on September 16, 2017.
Thank you very much. We have no presentations or recognitions today, and so we'll get on to the reports. And Mayor report concerns a hazmat training that I went to about a month ago in Van Horn, and Union Pacific put that training. Very informative. it dealt mainly with an overturned train, and even allowed some of these ranchers and farmers that tow around these little tankers behind their trucks. And one of the points they made was, if you see one of those that's turned over, don't approach it unless you know exactly what's in that container. They showed us a video of a highway patrolman up north that there was a farmer that had overturned, and the tanker was leaking. So he gets out because the individual was laying in the road, walks up to it, and was overcome. He was ammonia gas. So he died on the spot. So the point was that anytime you see someone like that, call 911. We do have an emergency management coordinator. They'll contact him, and they'll contact the appropriate individuals to take care of the issue. But under no circumstances do you approach a tanker unless you know for sure what's in it. We get a lot of trains, and they pointed that out, that carry a lot of sulfuric acid and different poisonous gases in them, liquids. And they're all identified on the side of the train. And these trains, according to Union Pacific representative, they're checked every 1,000 miles. They're checking the wheels, the chassis, the tank, everything to ensure the safety of the public. So that said, it was a very interesting, like I said, training. And David Lamerick and I are going to get a class together for the first responders here in Alpine. I think it's crucial that they're aware how to approach these accidents and how to make the public aware, to actually vacate the area that's hazardous material that's leaking out of them. And that'll be my report for today. So we'll go ahead and move on to the city manager report.
Mayor, I think that's all. We addressed a couple items in the information and discussion section.
Okay. And those city staff updates.
Trying to address really that.
And we'll move on to public hearings. City manager.
Our first public hearing is to obtain citizens' views and comments concerning the budget amendment for Fund 4 of the City of Alpine budget fiscal year 2016-17. Budget amendment will transfer 50,000 each, 100,000 total from 06549,000 from 06549,001 to the sewer department to 0653-0101 the water department. Budget amendment will cover additional wage costs relative to increased amount of water line breaks during this fiscal year. Just as a reminder, our elected officials cannot respond to any comments made during the public hearing. Simply point in time for citizens to make comments.
Is there anybody that wants to come to the mic? No one. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Item 5B is a public hearing to obtain citizens' views and comments concerning Tanya Hutchinson application for a zoning change from R2 to R3 to build fourplex apartment. Property identification, street address is Court of West Del Rio and North 13, Alpine, Texas. Legal description is shipment, Mission Block 3, Lot 7 to 10, Alpine, Texas 79830. Record owner is Tanya Hutchinson, agent is Shane Mitchell. I will note that this item was tabled last evening due to the block number not being corrected in the notice. And so the adjoining action item will be tabled this evening as well. But we can publish a public hearing, so if anybody wants to make a comment regarding this topic, okay.
Okay, anybody? Seeing none, let's go ahead and move to C then.
Item C is our public hearing to obtain citizens' views and comments concerning Roy B. Davis application for a zoning change from R4 to C1 in order to sell 2 lots so that a business can purchase them. Property identification, street address is corner of South Alps in East Murphy, Alpine, Texas 79830. Legal description is Hancock Edition, Block 25, Lot 1 and 2. Record owner is Roy B. Davis. Give the citizens an opportunity to speak on this topic if they want.
Anyone? Seeing none, go ahead and
So we are done with our public hearings.
that was easy. And let's go ahead and go to the consent agenda. Minutes, financial reports, department written reports, board appointments, etc. Notice to the public, the following items of routine administrative nature. The council has been furnished with electronic support material on each item, and/or it has been discussed at a previous meeting. All items will be acted upon by one vote without being discussed separately unless requested by a city member. council member, in which event the item or items will immediately be withdrawn for individual consideration. In its normal sequence, after the items not requiring separate discussion have been acted upon, the remaining items will be adopted by one vote. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, all three items listed would require a motion and a second by council. If any council member wants to pull any of these items out, that would be the time to do it.
Any?
Mayor, we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second? Any discussion? Seeing none. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to information or discussion items. City Manager.
Mayor and City Council, the first item that we have this evening is discuss the action plan relative to creek maintenance and how that would tie into our creek trail project. We have a couple slides. Mr. Jay Corey is here this evening. I'm going to let him address the majority of the questions, thoughts, and items relative to this topic. I'll kind of just kick things off by stating that we certainly have had a wonderful year relative to rain and moisture during the summer months. Probably our average for the year is a little down, but because we got so concentrated in the summer, heavy growth, we, so we've got quite a bit of vegetation in there. Water still flows real well, but the other piece that we have as part of our vision plan is the construction of that walking path through the creek as well. So Jay's here. We're going to address a couple slides here, so I'll let Jay head up and talk a little bit about creek maintenance, and then we'll, after that, we'll talk about prep for the creek trail project.
Mayor and council, thank y'all. Right now, we're planning on starting the creek maintenance around October the 9th, about the second weekend in October. It's going to be about a month-long process. We will take equipment in there and basically do a lot of grading, a lot of tree pulling, and at the same time, we're going to be kind of working on the structure of the creek itself, to where a little preventative maintenance and also a little forward advance for the trail that could be coming into the creeks also. By doing this, it will basically design a bed for the creek to run as it is, and then it'll give another location for the trail if it does come through, as we hope. The biggest, I guess, obstacle we're going to have is getting equipment in certain areas. Where we can't, we'll definitely, look at probably cutting and trying to get different trees, different things out like that. But for the most part, I think it's going to be a pretty easy deal. We'll be starting on the south side of town and working our way back north, going all the way through the golf course and as far as we can go. And also working on the trail, like I spoke of a little bit earlier. By using the staff and the equipment we've got, we're going to save quite a bit of money on this project also. If we had to bring in outside crews to do this, we're looking at probably several $100,000 minimum to do this. Like I say, but the main thing is cleaning the creek out, preventing kind of flooding issues, and then kind of building the base for the trail to go through the creek.
Part of that identification of the trail, my father and Cynthia are working through the details of property ownership right now. There had been some preliminary work done in about 2008, and so they're doing an overlay and identifying who specifically owns those properties now. And then as Jay and their team are navigating through the creek and seeing where that natural flow is, then it will give a good idea of, do we need easements? We certainly have a couple of property owners that want to deed their properties over to the city. So it's really up to that discussion. And we'll have my father and Cynthia kind of leading the way for the city relative to that, and working back certainly with Jay and their team. As they get different sections picked out, then, you know, if we perfect the easements through that area, then they can start building in a section.
Are there any concerns about property owners saying, gee, even though my property's in the creek bed, I don't want to give you access?
We will run into some of that, I'm sure, but I think we can work our way through that. And everywhere you go, it's that problem in creeks. This side of town, they don't own the creek. The other side, they do own the creek. We can address that as we come along that. I think they will be more than receptive to letting us come in and clean things up.
Are there easements for many of them, even though they maybe belong to property owners?
No, not at this point, nothing I'm aware of.
Oh, is that interesting? Yeah.
Well, as we look through the records, there was one person who wanted to deed their property over back in 2008, but it didn't appear to be properly recorded. So it's one thing to sign the paperwork, but then if you don't report it, the county office won't take a look at it. You know, Jay, maybe one of the other things to identify too is because this is a water flow area, the relationship with TCEQ and some of the expectations around what TCEQ might look at.
Yeah, one thing TCEQ will look at, especially when you're considering the trail inside of the creek, they look at that very hard. A lot of places they do not allow it. Some places, maybe some people are familiar with, the city of Kerrville built a 6.5 mile trail, beautiful trail on the river. City of Marble Falls is building one as we speak now. They have a small one, now they're adding to it. City of Burnett has built one, and they actually did go down into the creek. TCEQ did give them permission to build there. But of course, once the creek has water, it becomes waters of the state. So once this water's in the state, they can basically come in and run the show if they want to. I don't see that we'll have a whole lot of backlash from TCEQ. I'm hoping not, since this is not a running creek, simply a flood creek.
Jay, I've talked to a number of folks who've got equipment, blades, bobcats, tractors. Are you interested in having some of those folks contact you to coordinate and help, or do you not want it? Or
no, help is always welcome here. And the problem with some people is the experience they've had working in creeks.
Yeah.
If they have experience, we're more than welcome to try to work with them. If they haven't, we have a pretty strict policy about letting people bring equipment into creeks, especially.
Okay, I'll do those first.
So folks that own into the creek, you'll go ahead and clean it at no charge to them?
If they will give us permission.
Right.
Yes.
That's going to be one of the questions that's probably going to come up over the coming weeks. Okay.
Yeah, historically, the city, we've gone in and cleaned at different points in time through the creek. There's been a couple property owners that have gotten a little persnickety over time. But generally speaking, knowing that it's their responsibility, if somebody else is willing to do it for them, why not, right? Especially if you've got the city with some bigger equipment. It'll be a nice project. Any other questions? We've got another item coming up in a couple seconds, or a couple pieces, but we've got some in the middle.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make one comment.
Yes, sir. Please.
The information discussion items.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
Well, can you hang on that for a second, please? We can't. The public is not allowed to speak on this section.
Hang on a while.
Yes, sir. Okay. All right. So we'll go to B.
Item 7B, discuss city council's expectation relative to placement of items on agenda during the absence of the city manager. Really just wanted to open the dialogue a little bit to ensure the council was aware. Generally speaking, all of the items that go on the agenda from a staff perspective have to come from the city manager role. So, council takes action this evening to name an interim, then that person would agenda the items. If not, leading up to next meeting, the council members would have to be amenable to Cynthia Salas in order to have you sponsor the items on the agenda. So really just kind of wanted to call that out over the next couple of weeks. Any questions or?
I mean, I'm the one that put the agenda on for executive session to discuss appointment of the interim city manager. My expectation is we'll walk on with some agreement and have someone in the interim.
All right, item C is discuss city council's expectations relative to updating the check signatories for the city of Alpine checking council. We have, after my departure, there will be 2 remaining signatories, and each check requires 2 signatures. My recommendation would be to look at potentially having a 3rd and a 4th by the next city council meeting. Vacations come up, people are, we were trying to run a program where checks are for accounts payable are taken care of every week. So, of course, payroll is every other week. And something I just wanted council to keep top of mind, that this is going to be an important element. The 2 remaining will be Jay Horry and Daryl Lasoya. Will be the 2 remaining individuals. I do think it would be worthwhile to contemplate at a minimum having Melissa Kobos, who handles all of our billing on the water side. Many of you know Melissa, she sits behind Quartz up front. Very nice young lady. She would be a good person to think about long term. Historically, we've had somebody from police. We've had the outside main utility person, the city manager, and then either the city secretary or that chief billing person in the office. We do not put anybody on there that has been part of the finance team, just as a matter of course of execution. I certainly wouldn't recommend having somebody from your finance team signing checks, because they're the ones that actually print the checks. Any questions or thoughts on that? I just want to make sure everybody knew it's top of mind, and council was probably going to take some action on that.
Yeah, so we can't take any action on this meeting. So I just make sure we put that on the agenda for
26.
I'm sorry?
The 26th.
No, the 25th is a special meeting. That's the Monday. Yeah, October 3rd, Joe. Yeah. Okay.
And then item D, we'll jump back up with our ping priorities. And Jay is here to talk. Let me kind of kick things off relative to this topic. Originally, I put a presentation on our city website in early 2015 that talked about the quantity of city blocks and the costs relative to a proper maintenance program. As we went through our budget workshops this year, the request to get some additional information out there, posted a blog a couple months ago on our city website, and really wanted to have an opportunity this evening to talk a little bit more with council about kind of that 2-pronged strategy of seal coat versus full rebuild, and let Jay identify how they've been setting priorities this year and executing.
Mayor and council, thank you again. This year, during our paving progress, we just got 75 blocks, 76 actually in. Weather seemed to kind of put us back a little bit. And then we had an outside contractor come in and do a few blocks for us, actually 12 blocks. And what I want to show you is the difference between the total rebuild and then the seal coat. As far as the total rebuild, it come up to $245,000 for those blocks. Which basically that is about $20,700 per block to rebuild and pave the streets. Now, seal coating, it was $175,000, $176 to be exact, for 75 blocks. As you can see, there's quite a bit of difference. About $2,300 per block to seal coat. Of course, when you rebuild, they come in, they build the street up, come back, compact it, at base, level it, and then shoot their primers, shoot their product on it. Start out with a bigger than a smaller product. And usually in about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on whether they come back and sweep. Some people complain about it taking them long to sweep. You cannot sweep when it's hot, because you pull your product right up off the pavement. Seal coating is basically the same way, except it's not a rebuild. Basically, they come in there and they will what we call scab the road. They'll take the blade, kind of straighten it up, knock off high spots, put down any motion, and then come back with another product and do the same thing. The seal is top coating is a build is to put down 2 types of rock, let it set and come back usually in 2 to 3 weeks and then sweep that up. The main thing, we cannot rebuild roads like our contractors can. We don't have that type of equipment. We have a small version. We can go in and do certain parts, but we can't go in and do the whole block basically and make it feasible for the city.
So Jay, how long is a block?
Depends.
Ballpark, what's it,
Say 300 feet.
300 feet?
220 to 300 feet. And the widths vary, of course, I mean, you can see that here in town, but in all cities, the widths vary in the streets.
Yeah, so mine was about 50 blocks. Yes, sir. And the numbers you just gave, is that material and labor or just material?
Just basically material on our part. Now, labor part on the contract, it is included in that.
If you put your labor on top for the city labor on top of your $2,300 a block, what's about 10 grand a block?
It'd be probably pretty close, 8 to 10.
Yeah, okay. And the budget that was proposed was what, a little over $1 million, right?
That was total budget. We actually, in our payment, we had 425. The total budget though for that street department was a little over $1 million.
And your priorities are the high traffic streets, correct?
Yes. We're going to keep working our way, hopefully, down between the one-ways, maybe a block on each side, 2 in some cases. And then our seal coating will reach out farther, into the city to different streets. And, our goal is around 100 blocks per year. Different things happen, which of course slows us down, but that is the main goal right now. This year we leased a separate loader to where we didn't have to go back, load the truck, then come back and work. You keep them in, that seemed to speed things up, then Mother Nature kicked in.
And the rebuild, so you're, in terms of, I'm just trying to think about the 1,000 city blocks we have in Alpine. It's going to take about, if you kind of do all that math, it's about 10 years to redo the whole city.
Correct.
Yeah. We've been on this path for 2 years now.
2 to 3 years, I believe.
Two with Keith, Chair.
Yeah, 2 with Keith, yeah. Okay.
And Keith has been the only one who's bid on our order. I would say that with Hurricane Harvey hitting Houston very hard, many of the mid-state vendors will go down in that area because there'll be a lot of work.
One major problem, whenever you bring someone in, is the relocation. Anytime they have to mobilize equipment, that right there is a big cost to them. We're very fortunate to have Keith this close to us, that can come in and do the job that he does.
So you're stacking lots of rock out there. How much more are you going to stack?
That's Keith Jarrett's rock.
Well, that's Keith's rock.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He still will come back and finish the blocks on the other side of the street. Those completely as well. One of the other big pieces that will help the city from a cost cost perspective will be that aggregate plant going in on a Stubbs Ranch. And the cost of rock will almost cut in half, go from about 35 a ton down to about 18 to 20 a ton. So, buying 3,000 tons a year, it becomes substantive, as far as the cost benefits.
One question. On the last point, for 2017, you're saying 75 blocks. Will be seal coated or will be seal coated this year?
So they have been seal coated. They finished up
That's your
today, yes, sir.
objective for this year.
Yes, sir. Now, we actually had more of that scheduled, but like I say, weather has put us in a bind and set us back quite a bit. And now we're at the end of it. The tank that we used, the aggregate company come picked it up the other day. The loader was picked up today, the second loader. Not saying we still couldn't do a few blocks, but nothing on the scale that we've been doing.
Just out of curiosity, how do you prioritize which blocks are to be sealed?
Well, actually, the street department, Hector Ramirez is the one that basically does that. Now, if we see one we think needs to be put on the list, of course it is. But we will start, like this year, we started in the Carpenter mission and started moving to the west. Hopefully next year we can start where we left off and just kind of keep working our way up and down through the city. There's lots of streets out there that need it done, but we try to keep them kind of in order. That way you're not jumping around from south side, north side, east side, west side, which takes a lot of time to mobilize stuff like that.
Jay, as you look into the next paving season, when will you start looking at your priorities? And the reason being so that council can then shoot notes into the city manager to say, hey, these are the ones that at least in our respective boards.
Well, the first thing, of course, will be the streets ourselves. The second thing will be the equipment. We want to make sure our equipment, is up to the best standards it can be when we go into it, not have breakdowns. Of course, the other thing is the cost of materials. Like I said, if we're lucky enough to get the new quarry come in up here, that's going to save us a lot of money. Actually, maybe we can start stockpiling some extra stuff. And then, of course, after that, it's just the locale and I'm not going to call this a problem, but the big thing is whenever you do a street, trying to educate the public. Don't turn on sprinkler systems. Of course, we try to keep vehicles off the street. But whenever somebody puts water, when you put an emulsion down, it washes it off. So you don't have no kind of seal in there, and then, of course, nothing will stick. Thank you.
I need to clarify something here before we go to the action item. At the beginning, I read that residents can comment on only during public hearings and action items. That's the only time. Okay. So I told Mr. Palmer wrong, so I'm just correcting that.
You can comment?
Only on action items.
Only action items.
Yes, sir. And let's go ahead and move on to action items. Be accompanied by a brief statement of facts, including where funds are coming from, if applicable, action items limited up to 10 per meeting. Citizens are allowed to comment limited to 10 minutes after being called upon by the mayor. Citizens are required to state their name and the order which they reside. Order will be given to citizens of Alpine and those who own business or property in the city. Individuals who do not live or own business or property in the city of Alpine will be allowed to speak if there's time available. So we will go to action item number 8, city manager.
City Council is to discuss and consider adopting fiscal year 2017/2018 City of Alpine budget and adopting ordinance 2017-09-01, and ordinance making appropriations for the support of the City of Alpine, Texas for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2017 and ending September 30th, 2018. Appropriating money to a sinking fund to pay interest and principal on the city's indebtedness, adopting the annual budget for the city of Alpine for the year 2017-2018 fiscal year. We have had 2 budget workshops. We posted the proposed budget on our website in early August, and we then had a public hearing on the budget a couple meetings ago. So the comments from council during the portion of that time have been well received. Continue to work diligently to try to maximize the utilization of our tax dollars and our other revenue sources relative to completing projects and restoring assets for the city of Alpine.
Any comments?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I propose that we adopt the 2017-2018 City of Alpine budget and adopting ordinance 2017-09-01 and make the appropriations for the support of the City of Alpine for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017 and ending September 30th, 2018, and that the appropriate money to the sinking fund to pay interest and principal on the city's indebtedness, adopting the annual budget for this fiscal year 2017-2018.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Buster Combs, Ward 5, just to learn a few things, how things operate here. I don't know at all, but I like to be here for the people. In reference to the budget, and I was here a while back, I know that certain items are allocated certain monies for this and that. And I know what I clearly heard stated in the Ward 5 perspective that in reference to the budget, that there was no money in the budget for the creek project. Now, going back to the budget, we're almost $6 million in debt, right? Am I aware of this? I'm doing some research for the city. Now, talking about the budget again, I hope that the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted in reference to privatizing any creek project in reference to budget. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any more? Seeing none. All those in favor, please your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Thank you. But the motion carries. And we'll move to item 9, City Manager.
9 is to discuss and consider adopting the 2017 tax year proposed property tax rate for the city of Alpine, Texas by ordinance 2017-09-02. Tax rate of 0.534970 per $100 valuation. Then recommended for fiscal year 2017-2018 budget. Once again, we did have the prescribed 2 tax rate hearings for the public, and the proposed tax rate was published along with the budget in early August and posted on our website.
Yeah, those meetings we already had to turn out, didn't we?
That is correct. We tendered no comments on these topics.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we adopt the 2017 tax year proposed property tax rate for the city of Alpine as described in our ordinance 2017-09-02 at a rate of 53.4970 cents per $100 valuations for to support the fiscal year 2017-2018 city budget.
Okay. Is there a second? There's been a second. Any discussion?
The only comment I'd like to make is this is actually less than the current rate, and that's because even though property values have gone up, we have to reduce the effective tax rate because we're limited on how much we can increase overall property taxes. So while property tax rates for individuals have gone up, or the value of things gone up, and the city is going to end up being reducing the property tax rate to stay within the state's required cap. Now, we're only one of 4 entities that tax city property. So it'll be interesting to see what the school board does, what the hospital district does, and what Brewster County has already done. And I know Brewster County has already passed their tax rate.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, then we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to item 10, city manager.
Mayor, City Council, I need to table item 10 this evening.
Okay, we'll move to item 11, city manager.
Mayor, City Council, item 11 is to discuss and consider the hotel occupancy tax funding request. We sent out a scanned version of that last week, and in our budget, we are contemplating revenues of $700,000 this year. The interesting thing is through 11 months, we've already hit $718,000 in revenue, and the tourism in this community continues to blossom. Historically, the city has always funded specific events, provided not only seed money as they begin to gestate, but then also continue to provide that over a longer period of time for many of our flagship events. One of the challenges that Chris Ruggia, Stuart Ramser, and I have talked about is how do you continue to grow the advertising presence, which is a requirement of the tax dollar usage, is that 50% of that money needs to go to advertising to bring people into the community. So one of the real key improvements that we proposed this year was to drive some larger dollar advertising to mediums out there that we know attract people. So as you look through some of the spreadsheets in our general city of Alpine tourism, we were targeting some of the bigger cities where we know we draw people in from San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, San Angelo. Even though Houston's gone through major catastrophe with the hurricane, there are going to be people at times that are going to want to get away from it for a weekend. And this tends to be a great place to get away from the stresses of life. And so we'll continue to advertise. One of the other pieces that we're looking at in this proposal is some larger scale advertising in Southwest Airlines. That magazine, for those of you who fly that airline, changes out every month. And so what we would see through this program would be 3 different points during the year, getting them with an ad. And that cycle where they get between 180 and 200,000 passengers a month. I know every time I fly, the first thing I do when I sit down before it takes off is I pull that darn magazine out and go through. I mean, it just is a habit that I think most people take. So it's Southwest Airlines flies a lot of core cities, in and out of core cities, where we want people to know about Alpine and the Big Bend region. Those certainly in the couple page write up, I put some other elements in there. I think the other key point for people to know, if we haven't already talked about this, is Stuart Ramser's roles and responsibility as tourism director are going away at the end of this month. He will be fully immersed in a new full-time job. That came upon him unbeknownst. It wasn't something he sought. It was something that people sought him for. I have great confidence in what Stuart, Chris, and I have been able to do over the last several years. They certainly were at this before me. With that being said, Stuart is going to continue to run Viva Big Bend. part of his new position, this is an event that fits into the organization that he's become part of. With that being said, when we think about economic impact to business owners in Alpine through events, Viva Big Bend, year in, year out, when we talk to the hoteliers, that is the biggest event. And because it spans 4 days, it has that additional economic impact. So we certainly are excited to continue to have that, the Cowboy Poetry Gathering, Art Walk, and Big Bend Ranch Rodeo draws good crowds. Most of those are 2-day events, but still continue to draw really good crowds. And it's been exciting to see this grow and develop, and the tourism dollars continue to come into the city. We've got a couple hotels that have gone back online, Quality Inn, of course, the 47 Circle, and the upgrades that those hoteliers are doing. As you look through the revenues on a monthly basis, you see it's really helping pay dividends. So it's a combination between the work that they're doing and investing in their properties along with the size of the program. The checking account for the hotel occupancy tax is very healthy, continues to sit around 400 or 500,000, and we've also got 80,000 in the reserve fund. And so if something happened and by chance tourism fell off the face of the planet, which I don't think it will, but even if we had a 15 or 20% reduction in tourism next year as compared to this year, we still would have ample money to support the advertising, which would be very critical to get those numbers up, because if the hoteliers experience that type of drop-off, it would be very harmful to their business. So, with that being said, I will leave the motion in a second and then further discussion. Okay.
Take the motion.
Propose.
Go ahead. Yes, I do have a question. And knowing that there's a certain amount of monies that are being put into various media outlets to attract tourism to our area, but is there any type of data analysis system in place within the community to evaluate whether the media that we're directly associated with is really bringing in people from those target areas? Where are people coming from, basically?
So that's a fantastic question, and every marketeer would love to know that answer. That is the hardest question for any marketeer to really answer. What we are seeing emerging with technology is more of that AI analytics, where they're starting to do some cross-referencing based on social media preferencing, articles that people click on via smartphones, via computer, and it's still not a direct correlation until you get into the human mind and say, okay, where did I see that representation of Alpine or the Big Bend? So from a marketing perspective, what we really try to drive analytics on is, as it relates to the city of Alpine, is where do the tourists come from? And so we know, like when we look at the stuff that Ellen provides us, we're getting from the visitor center, we're tracking, and we know the majority of the tourists in Alpine are coming from the state of Texas, right? So then we start looking at what are the bigger communities that are represented in that sample set. That's probably the best analysis that we have, is that the asking in the visitor center, where are they coming from? But generally speaking, they're getting peppered from different venues. So we run a Facebook ad product. We're tweeting things. We're trying to attach to more people so that they retweet events or so that they repost events. And all of those tend to be touch points to the consumer out there. And I would say that this year, the increase in advertising in the larger markets is predicated on the data that we're seeing in the conversations that we're having in the visitor center, generally where people are coming from.
Can hotels or motels keep track of where these folks come from and kind of give us an idea?
Yes, they certainly, and because I'm not a hotelier, I don't know from a consumer data sharing perspective, how deep of the data that they can give. We certainly work with, so the Ang Hospitality Group, who owns the Holiday Inn Express and the Hampton, and every year we work on it's a kind of an event flyer or card that they put in their hotel that they're looking to entice people to come back. And certainly we talked with like Bernard, we talked with Parker's and some of the different hoteliers on where they're seeing clients come from as well.
I guess because I run into a lot of tourists, and you're right, the preponderance does come from Texas, but we still have a lot of people come outside the state. And aside from Southwest doing our advertising, are we advertising and say the larger markets like Chicago, New York, this type of thing?
Not currently. Not currently. I think the real push this next year is to look at an ad placement in Southwest Airlines, which we know is flying more in this general region, and see if that has some level of impact. Because certainly some of those people, if that's what stimulates them to look deeper at this area, then if they do wander in the visitor center, we'll probably extract that information.
On the information provided, I noticed an impressive list of media outlets, radio, TV, etc. Is there in the future, do you think, an interest or to try to also bridge maybe the multilingual stations like Univision and some of the other Spanish language stations that are also well known at the national center?
I certainly think all of those are opportunities in the next person that the city manager brings in to work alongside with Chris on the marketing plays in the different outlets that they advertise in. All of those should and could be contemplated. And there's lots of opportunities to advertise. The other piece that when you're putting out that advertising plan is to try to minimize the costs for each of the vendors, because they'll always, like Southwest Airlines, the first blush that we got was $20,000 for one ad. We now have it down to $7,000 per ad. So you have to stretch that dollar sum and be able to negotiate. Some of the vendors, the larger plays, may not be willing to negotiate, so you kind of have to balance that in as well. There's a lot of thinking that has to go into it. Plus, and also the ad creation, right? So if you go into the print ad, the aesthetics. I mean, part of what we continue to do is run the photo contest. Well, the reason for the photo contest is to pull photos to advertise the area, right? It serves two purposes, getting people out there taking pictures, but then also finding good content that we can add into the ads to try to catch people's attention and draw them to this area.
So, entertain motion.
We don't have a section.
Oh, we don't have a second. We don't have a motion. We don't have a motion yet.
So I would make the motion that we approve the hot funding request as proposed.
Second, okay, motion made in second. Any discussion?
Now, discussion. Okay. We know our hotel occupancy rates are for the city.
We get the 7%. charge or,
No, occupancy rates, not the cost. We have
so
roughly 600 rooms. How we do on pull them up? And is there a way to back that? Can we create that number by taking how much we get an occupancy tax and figure out how many are filled up?
I think you can put that in the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And determine it on a quarter-to-quarter basis. And look at revenues, although revenues are a percentage of their room rate, the rack rate, so the rack rates can vary. I haven't asked directly what their occupancy is. I do know in talking to Paresh that he's typically, at or above 90%. He's busy all the time.
Yeah, because to Ramon's question, I mean, so, and having been on council now a couple of years, we've asked the question, get the cards back. My sense is we struggle getting the hotels to give us the data. So that's not all that effective. But being able to correlate occupancy, at least on a quarterly basis, with events that go on, that which is funded by the hot funding, will at least begin to give us some sense about what's bringing the money and which one's not. But it's all about that's it is. So,
generally speaking, when you see the bigger events come through, if you go downtown, you can get a general feel for the volume of tourism there. And then I think beyond that, it's there's some opportunity to grab some of the occupancy rates from some of the key hotels.
Any comments from the audience? Seeing none. Then before they vote on the motion, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign, motion carries. Thank you. That takes care of the hot money. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll move to item 12, city manager.
City Council, item 12 is to discuss and consider adopting an ethics policy for the city of Alpine. This was an element put in your packet. For some of our grant needs, we have to have an approved ethics policy. I will give Megan Antrim all the credit on this one for, I think as I've shared in some of the previous meetings, that her and her team have been working quite a bit on some of the human resource training, some of the modules they've been going to get it. So through that, she was able to help build this ethics policy, work back through the state to ensure it meets their compliance standard for some of these grants. If there are more detailed questions relative to this policy, I would defer to Megan, who is here this evening, if anybody has any further detailed questions relative to the ethics policy.
No?
the only question I have is, this applies to city employees. Should it not also apply to city council? If there was something, I didn't see it, that's why I'm asking.
Just generally speaking, the ethics would be covered through the ethics training and sign off that elected officials have to go through when they go into office from a state level.
I don't recall having signed one, that's why I'm asking. And so when I read this, it says, applies to employees, employees shall be a person employed and paid a salary by the city, whether under civil service or not, but does not include an independent contractor or city council member. That's what it says. Does not include city council. My views are by city council.
Adolfo. So when you go through the TOMA training on an annual basis, do you include the requirements from the state relative to the ethics?
They're usually done at the same time. So if you're adopting ethics policy for the city, usually includes council members as well.
I'm just reading what it says. Right now, Megan, are you sitting around the corner? See, I guess where I'm at, I would propose that the city adopt the ethics policy for the city of Alpine. And that we put on the agenda for next week to make sure it applies to city council as well.
Clarify.
Yeah, well, right now it doesn't say, but it does, that's my worry, so.
Yeah, I was thinking like this is for salaries for paid by the city. But
I'm not big, I don't collect the salary from the city, I collect no money from the city at all. And so, and it says, but does not include an independent contractor city council member. It says it right in here, it does not include. So that's my worry. It should include.
So Megan, the question on the ethics policy is relative to city council and the statement.
It's, when it states to an officer or employee, generally it's officer can mean political officer, the city manager, city secretary. Generally it includes city council as well. You don't pass an ethics policy without including the council. Others are written that way, a lot of ordinances are written that way.
Because that one statement does exclude city council, can we strike that particular statement and still approve the policy with that being struck?
No, it's political contribution. I mean, it's political contributions. I mean, it's the exceptions are correct. You want to, my understanding, you want to include the exceptions, or?
Well, so what I like is under the term, strike the words city council member. They're all included.
You mean to add city council members?
So right now it says, but this does not include an independent contractor or city council member. That's what the policy is being proposed approves. And I would propose striking the words or city council member. Therefore, we are included. Because then it goes on the next paragraph, the employee shall not rule on all things.
Where I'm having trouble reading that. What section are you referring to, please?
I'm reading it under definitions A and under subparagraph C, C3 relative to employees.
So Adolfo, I may be wrong, but our employee policy manual applies to employees. City council is not an employee. They have to follow state and charter regulations on ethics. This is just that our current policy doesn't have any type of policy for our employees. So the idea was to put it in the employee policy. I'm not against adding council members as well, but I'm under the understanding that as not employees, you don't follow our employee policy manual.
I mean, and you're right, it is in our city charter.
Yeah, I'm looking at what I have here. I don't see that. I don't know if you're looking at a different version than I have, but yeah, the city council has state regulations they have to follow. If you don't have one for the employees, this is fine. This is going to go in the personal policies guidelines. What generally what you can do is have the same. It just depends what you want to do for personal policies and guidelines. For the employees, it's fine, but you should track the same for council members in an ordinance, so it could be the same type of ethical requirements. It's going to be a little different for the employees than it is the council members, but
so we're in violent agreement. So I don't think there's an issue there. I just can't follow the paper trail. So for tonight, I make the motion as I have that we propose approving this as written, and that on a meeting that we come back on October 3rd, We have a discussion to follow on. Adolfo, you go to the homework to find out where council is included in this. So we have the paper trail. That would be wonderful. And then we can take action for council. Sounds good. Okay.
Not second.
Next.
Okay, motion been made, second, any discussion? They really had it. Okay, all those in favor, raise right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We'll come back up for the third.
Mayor, City Council. Item 13 is discuss and consider the request for funding by our Children's Advocacy Center. Last meeting discussed this item. There were a couple questions from council. Ms. Shanna Sullivan is here this evening, sitting with the way back. Shanna and Cynthia and I had talked relative to some of the other funding sources, the other cities and counties that participate with our Children's Advocacy Center. So she's here this evening.
And I brought along a board member, Ellen Stephens.
Relative to answer any questions.
So I raised a question last time. How much are you getting from the city right now? And how much do you get from the county?
I get $5,000 right now from the city of Alpine. And I get $1,500 from Brewster County.
From Brewster County.
Yes. So my total city-county budget for all the counties that we service is roughly about $15,000. Of course, that varies from year to year depending on their budgets.
Does that include like United Way or any other funding?
No, sir, we don't. We are not eligible for United Way. We've applied for that several times and we're not eligible for that funding. I do a lot of private grant writing as well to the Brown Foundation, Abel Hanger, those sort of things.
So your only funding comes from the city and the county then? That's what you're saying?
No, sir. No, sir. We have two major grants. Our VOCA grant, which is our Victims of Crime Act grant, and that's one of our major funding sources. And then our other one is from our parent organization. It's Children's Advocacy Centers of Texas, and it's an HHSC grant. And so those are very stable funding sources.
Okay, all of those two then?
So this year we had, for VOCA, we had $70,000, and for the CAC Texas grant, we had $103,000. Both of those require matches. VOCA requires a 20% match, and the CAC Texas requires a 50% match.
And part of the write-up when we looked at this last week was that one of your challenges is getting matching funds, where it says you've not gotten all the dollars you expect because you didn't get sufficient matching grants.
I turned down $65,000, I believe, last year because I wasn't able to come up with a match. It's a huge portion of money that could be utilized for, updating new equipment, those sort of things.
So, and you're requesting how much from the city?
An additional $10,000.
An additional $10,000 was out of the fine for the city. And where are you in discussions with the county on this subject?
We have not approached the county this year. However, I did approach them for an increase last year, and it was denied.
What were the percentages again?
I'm sorry?
What were the percents?
Of the matches? It's 20% for VOCA and 50% for the HHSC. But we did get a $500 increase from the city of Presidio. I did get a $500 increase from Jeff Davis County. So, but we were also cut from Terrell County completely this year, their budgets. Pretty bad.
And you provided some data we saw last time, so there's roughly, my numbers could be off, 73, 74 cases a year.
Well, no, that was the number of kids that I had interviewed for the city of Alpine.
That's Alpine.
Just Alpine since 2013. Okay. I do about 85 interviews per year. Right. I did 6 today for the city of Alpine. So, it just depends. And it was kind of hard to track those numbers because I actually tracked those by county. So I had to go back and kind of break those down. So that's not actually 100% accurate, but it was as close as I could get.
Where are most of those of your population you interviewed? How many, what ballpark percentage you're in Alpine?
Maybe, you're talking the city of Alpine
Well, yeah.
or Brewster County?
I city of Alpine.
Probably 30%, I would estimate.
Are you the only employee?
No, I have actually hired a program manager this year. I have been the sole employee for a good while. I do all the forensic interview and the grant writing, everything.
Just to see if I got it straight. The funding request for the center for 2017 is how much? You're asking for 10,000 or 5,000?
The total request would be 15. I was told that we already have been approved for the 5,000. So we're requesting the extra $10,000 from the discretionary fund. Yes, sir.
That'll cover you for 2017.
Well, it'll be fiscal year 18.
18, 17.
31 October. And you still don't know what the county is going to propose.
No, sir.
Yeah, Councilor Davis, just since you're newer, let me kind of get you up to speed of what we did with this current fiscal year that we're coming out of. We did allocations last year at this time. The Children's Advocacy Center was allocated 5,000. Other entities were allocated dollars from the city general fund. And then council also allocated 10,000 in discretionary dollars that they could distribute during the course of the year for any additional requests. And this has been the first request that was positioned relative to those dollars.
And do those funds expire 30 September?
They would expire.
So, Mr. Mayor, yes, sir. I propose we allocate an additional $10,000 to the Children's Advocacy Center, and the funds are in the budget.
And the total 55. Yes, sir. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Most of the made and seconded discussion. No discussion. Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Okay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You know, open the floor for item 12 for the public comment.
On the ethic policy, we'd already gone through it.
You didn't open the floor for the people.
But I can't even,
You didn't open the floor for public comment on that floor?
it was open
Oh,
to
well,
anybody.
Well, you
I,
never,
I announced it when I read it at the very beginning.
no, sir, you just went through it and I never opened the floor for public comment. I had something to say.
Okay, well, I'll allow it.
On that particular item, item 12, and I agree with, first of all, City Manager Stevens, adopt that ethics policy, and I hope and pray that this is available for the community as well. What I'm saying to this is that that it would include City Council as well. Because I believe me, there's been a couple of times that I've been on the phone with the state or Texas Ethics Commission in Austin. And it's something that is very important for the people, for transparency, because of special interest that tends to creep up. Ideas, fascinations, regions of grandeur. This is very important for the people. Thank you.
Okay, well. Okay, let's go to item 14.
Yes, sir. Item 14 is to discuss and consider the requested use of this agreement for Wasserman Ranch to improve and utilize the police delivery card. Item was discussed at September 5th, 2017 City Council. We had that as an information discussion item on the 5th. Ms. Wasserman has done quite a bit of work pulling together the project plan. I apologize It took a while to get there, but I think as we all appreciate, sometimes getting the quotes is not as timely as we would all like or expect. With that in mind, there's certainly been dialogue with the Wassermans and some of the other folks that have either adopted spots down there at the Railroad Park or business entities that are doing things to drive commerce in the downtown area. I know she has spoken as well with the Alpine Downtown Association, and my sense is there is representation here this evening from some folks that might speak out and offer some level of comment related to that. As I kind of looked through it, what I had originally thought was this would be an opportunity to breathe some life back into that caboose, get it renovated. What we see in the Wasserman's proposal is a lot of that elbow grease would be done by Scott, who's very, very talented at this type of work. And then there are certainly the elements like electrical that would be done by licensed contractors and whatnot. So the balance of there was outlined in the project plan. I originally thought, and I don't have a proposed lease in your packet, if council decides they want to move forward, I think it's an opportunity to instruct city manager and attorney to finalize a lease with the Wassermans. But originally I had thought that it would be something that you could do as a 3 to 5 year type lease. Because if somebody's going to invest this amount of time and effort, they'd like to ensure that they could do it for at least 36 months, if not 60 months. But then look at it as more of a lease payment of 5% of gross revenues that generate from that facility. That would help really breathe some life, like I said, into that caboose down there and drive some commerce to the downtown area. We currently still have money in our parks capital line item that could fund this. As I kind of went through the remainder of Heidi's input that she gave to us, you'd be looking at a little over $9,000. I'll give you the exact numbers. I ended up with 9,018 total. There's, some of those items are hard estimates. Another are, deviate 10% here or there. But generally speaking, we wouldn't go over 9,500. We have over 10,000 still available in that line item that could be allocated to this project. With that being said, I would certainly entertain a motion so that we can open up the discussion.
In the motion.
So I propose that the council agree to the request for the use and lease by the Wasserman Ranch for the caboose at Railroad Park. But I got a whole bunch of questions. So I want to amend that motion, at least with the motion on the table, so we have discussion.
Okay, motion's been made, seconded. So we're open for discussion.
So, Eric, your statement is that the $9,500 we had in the current fiscal year budget, so we have to commit that. As a city manager, you commit that tonight, set it there, they'll do the improvements on that. So from that standpoint, it's already budgeted. The challenge will be then coming up with a lease agreement that makes sense with the city officers. And the terms of which would have to be sorted out. I was just trying to go through the map and figure out what the payback is on $9,500.
Right. So the 9,500 is a one-time funding to get it up and running, correct?
Correct. And of course, the renovation is more than 9,500 that we would see when Scott do the quite a bit of work. He's here this evening. And, there's some things that we do from the city perspective as well. Generally, that's our normal portion.
I'd like to comment that the Friends of the Park have done an excellent job of keeping it clean. And I see them almost on a weekly basis out there working on that. Be another great addition to the park. And yeah, I'm starting to see folks actually go and visit the park, sitting there and spending some time. So with also the tourists coming in, that would be an added, for the city as an added income. Don't have anything to comment on?
We'd be glad to answer if you have any additional questions. We're still very, very enthused about the project as a whole, and want to assure you, I guess, that we want to keep it aesthetically pleasing and make it, just keep polishing that little corner of downtown Alpine into the gem that it can be.
You're gonna put gloves on a kangaroo?
I almost brought her with us this evening to see if she could help make up your minds.
I was just making fun of it. But yeah, that's a great venue that y'all were undertaking. Is that or cabooses laid there, broken windows, and kind of an eyesore. And I think that would sponsor more interest in that particular area. So I applaud y'all for taking on that project.
Thank you for that support and encouragement.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Sheila Ness, Ward 3. I don't know the Wassermans. I believe I saw Mrs. Wasserman one morning in the Goose parking lot. She had a baby kangaroo with her. And she had quite a crowd around her. I've never visited the ranch, but I've spoken to many people, especially young ones, who have visited the ranch. These folks have proven themselves to be extremely responsible pet owners. I've heard a lot of rumblings about them bringing pets to that railroad car. If anyone thinks they would do anything to purposely endanger one of their pets, they're really small-minded. Most animals do very well in the heat as long as they have fresh water available to them. Animals acclimate to changes, for the most part, better than people. The train horns would not even bother most animals after the first or second time they heard them. Also, someone will be in attendance when the animals are at the park. Pets respond to people in a loving, trusting manner when they've been treated well. I understand that Mrs. Wasserman has responded to questions and doubts from area folks. I personally think she can be trusted to do the very best for her pets. They are her family.
Thank you.
My name is Betty Gaddis, and I speak for the 16 now tax-paying businesses on Murphy Street. We are pleased and very happy that Scott and Heidi are considering the location of the caboose for their business, and it is our honest belief that they will make a good job of it, and we will be happy to have them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Seeing none, then motion been made and second. We'll go ahead and vote for it. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Congratulations. You got your caboose. Okay, we'll go to item 15, city manager.
Item 15 is to discuss and approve the second reading of ordinance 2017-0903, where the budget amendment for Fund 4 of the City of Alpine budget fiscal year 2016-17. Budget amendment will transfer 50,000 each, 100,000 total from 0654-9000 and 0654-9001 to the sewer department, 0653-0101 to the water department. Budget amendment will cover additional wage costs relative to increased amount of water line breaks during this fiscal year. I would say it's somewhat apropos based on the last couple days. And a couple of additional water breaks that we had on our SCADA system that we've been working diligently through. But this is somewhat a reflection of elements that our team has been charging through. And we've certainly accumulated a little bit more overtime than we'd like, but the fund as a whole continues to be balanced with the request on this.
And we do have an aging water system that is deteriorating, so I think this money be put to road use.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend we approve the second reading of order 2017-09-03 for the budget amendment. I move that for the city of Alpine and transfer $50,000 each from 0654-9000 and 0654-9001 for a total of $100,000 to 0653-0101.
Is there a second? Motion been made, second. Any discussion? Anybody from the public? Seeing none, then we'll go ahead and vote on it. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Thank you. Motion carries. And I will go to item 16.
So, Mr. Mayor, before we go there, I recall in the past, we had to do a record vote on tax on our budgets. Do we need to go back and redo item number 8?
Yes, 8
and 9. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm going back to my recollection of what we went through this before, but we do it. I think there's a set of language I'm going to rely on Megan to make sure we got it right. Is Megan still here? Okay, Megan. Okay. So I'm going to go back and do the motion for 8 and the motion for 9, and you're going to make sure I read it correctly. Yes. So you're the one keeping us honest. I move that we adopt the proposed budget for 2017-2018 fiscal year, which reflects an increase in revenue derived from the property tax revenues over last year's budget. From my understanding, and I recall, we have to do a record vote. Everyone's vote has to be recorded as a 400 piece. So that's the motion. Okay. There is a second to that motion.
I'll second. Okay, motion's been made, second. Any discussion? Any discussion from the floor? So, okay, so motion's been made, seconded, and yes, ma'am.
The reason that I'm not gonna vote for it is because I'm not seeing where there's actual numbers. The numbers are proposed numbers on this. Right now, we have in revenues, we have 8.6 million, give or take. 7.4 in expenses, with 1.2 more. The law states that we cannot have a surplus budget. So I'm not going to vote for it. That's that is the law.
I guess I don't see a surplus budget. We have a balanced budget. It's $12.6 million. Income is $12.6 million going out.
The numbers that we have on our budget are proposed numbers. They're not actual
They can't be
numbers that
actual.
we're going by.
Well, they can't be actual. We haven't spent it.
No. The one, if you go by the ones that we have on our pages 7 and 8. The expenditures say proposed, right? And if you go to the 2016, 2017 numbers on there, those are actual, those are also proposed. If you go into each of these departments, there's proposed and then there's actual. The numbers are completely different. Why would I want to run something that's a proposed number instead of an actual number? There's no reason to have proposed numbers. We can just have actual numbers.
So you can only have actuals for last fiscal year. You can't have actuals for this fiscal year.
They're still off.
No, that was,
Yes, they're very off.
no, that's last year's, this is this year, the actuals
And there's 5%.
increase.
Right.
So these are two different fiscal years.
Yes, I know. And I'm telling you that these were inflated. So if we're going by the ones from last year, they're not actual numbers either. How can you go by numbers from last year that weren't actual numbers?
We haven't closed out fiscal year 17
Right.
yet.
And we're fixing to.
So
September is, I think, the 31st of September. That's it, right?
it'll be actual.
The numbers are right.
Which numbers are not right?
If you, if you go through it, there's a lot in here, all of them. You have actual expenses. You have proposed numbers
Proposed numbers for which year?
for the 2017. If you would need an account to go through all of this, which I put some of it, and the numbers don't match.
Okay, so here we
I'm
are.
not gonna go for it. And that's why. I'm not gonna be your other person that's not there.
Okay. So much. It's beyond me, the number of meetings we've had on this subject, and we're on the last date, and now this question's coming up.
It takes a while to do a lot of research on that.
We've had it for a month. Your choice.
So almost in there.
No, it has to be by name, it'll have to be name by name by name.
Okay.
Person by person.
Person by person.
Councilman Stevens.
So I vote for it.
Councilman Squid.
Against.
I vote for it.
Councilman Rivas.
Okay, that was action item number 8.
Yep, 8.
Now, action item number 9, which also, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a total tax rate of 53.4970 cents, which is effective an 8% increase in the tax rate by the adoption of ordinance 2017-09-07 for fiscal year 2017-2018, which increases part of the total tax rate 47.209 cents. 97 cents for maintenance and operations, and 6.2873 for debt service. That's the motion.
That's the motion. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on it.
I vote for it.
Okay. Councilman Squid.
Against.
Against.
I vote for it.
Okay. So we have 4 and 1 against.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure we got it correct so we know. Otherwise, we would have nobody starting.
Item number 16, Mayor, is to discuss and consider playing the zoning recommendation. The City Council concerning the Roy B. Davis for zoning change request from R4 to C1 in order to sell 2 lots so that a business can purchase them. Property identification, street address, to the corner of South Phelps and Alpine, Texas. Legal description is Hancock Condition, Block 25, lots 1 and 2. Record owner is Roy B. Davis. Planning and zoning met last evening and debate on this topic and voted unanimously to recommend it to council.
So I'll entertain a motion on this.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion been made. Second. Motion made, second. Any discussion? None. Ms. Pham, I didn't see you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just Jerry Davis. I'm spouse. I'm here if you have any questions. That's it.
Any questions? I guess not.
Okay,
Okay.
that works.
Okay. All those in favor of that motion? Raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. forward to item number 17, city council comments. And we started.
No, I'm tired. Everybody shut up. Meeting.
No, I just want to say that I am really happy for the turnout of the audience, the public coming up to this meeting today. It just brings to mind a phrase I heard a long time ago that democracy begins with you. So keep it up. And I'm just curious, how many of you are for Ward 2?
Yay.
With that in mind, since it raised his hand, I'd like to introduce Tim Pierce, who is our prospect for in the Planning and Zoning Commission. Actually, hopefully we can get that on board next month.
Thank you for coming.
So this is the last meeting of our current city manager. And I would like to make comment that I think as council has discussions next week, the 25th, looking at continuing to look at candidates that come forward, I think we as a city council will find it very difficult to find someone who's worked as hard, has provided the leadership that Eric has provided, and I think we as a council owe a huge debt of gratitude to you, Eric, for the work that you've done. As we think about when Eric came on board as the city manager, we as a city found ourselves with an inability to pay our debts. And we now have not only money in the bank, we've got flexibility to be able to meet the needs of the city of Alpine. And Eric hasn't done that all by himself. He's pulled together, in my view, a phenomenal team. So I think we owe Eric a great round of applause and thanks for your service.
And city manager, I just want to wish you the best of luck in your new endeavor. Thank you for your service to the city. And yes, we're not that tired of being in debt all the time. And for the last 2 years, after the last 2 budgets that I've been on board, it's been a good balanced budget. So thank you very much for your service, sir. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. This is the most folks we've had in a long time, which is fantastic. I'd like to see that. But I want to thank y'all for taking out your time and like Ramon said, you guys are the ones that make the city government run over ready. And thank y'all very much. And now we're going into executive session.
So, Mr. Mayor, pursuant to government code section 55.1.071, consultation with attorney, and 55.1.074, personal matters, executive session. I'm talking on 2 subjects. One is consultation with attorney regarding the chief of the city business center. And second, to discuss the appointment of the interim city manager, transition plans for several programs commercial city manager.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please let those opposed, like sign. Going to executive session. 10 minutes. Okay. Okay, yeah.